Hello everyone, this is your host Davis and welcome to What's Cooking on the Gridiron. Well, another Super Bowl is in the books and I hope everyone enjoyed number 57. Nothing is better than game day food and beverages while watching a great game with family and friends. I hope everyone had a chance to check out some of our posted recipes and stir up some aviation gin cocktails. And if you had a chance to watch our reel on Against the Spread with Sirag, then you will know that he did pretty decent on his recommended picks. I know I for one did take his advice and had fun winning a little cheddar. Congrats to all Kansas City Chiefs and the Chiefs Kingdom. And of course, a special congrats to Mahomes for becoming a two-time Super Bowl champion, two-time Super Bowl MVP, and two-time NFL MVP. Please join us over the next week for our series of post-Super Bowl analysis. We will review Sunday's key players and chat about what you should take away from Sunday's game to help you with next year's regular season fantasy draft. First up will be part 1 focusing on Super Bowl MVP QB Patty Mahomes. Welcome to part 1 of our post-Super Bowl analysis featuring Cursebreaker double MVP Magic Arm Patty Mahomes. At 27 years old, Mahomes is a two-time Super Bowl champion and the 7th QB to win both the NFL MVP and Super Bowl MVP awards in the same year. On Sunday, we witnessed a signature performance in the growing legend of Mahomes. He broke the MVP curse and became the first player since St. Louis' Kurt Warner in 1999 to win a league MVP and a Super Bowl in the same season. But in my opinion, his best achievement this year is beating the skeptics. At the start of the season, KC had just traded away their top receiver, which left them with Kelce and new unknowns in Juju, Valdez-Scantling, and rookie Sky Moore. But Mahomes' exceptional gift isn't his arm, and he doesn't necessarily need star receivers. His gift is improvisation. Mahomes has an ability to make something from nothing, an ability to move a defender with his legs, and subsequently create a throwing window. And that's what wins you Super Bowls. Add that to his newfound running ability he displayed on Sunday, even on an injured ankle, proves that although Mahomes is not known for rushing, he is adaptable. And that is what wins you fantasy leagues.
Welcome to our post-Super Bowl analysis featuring QB sneak Jalen Hurts so good. Sunday was a sad day for Philly, but sometimes no matter how hard you try or how much you deserve to win, you lose. On any given Sunday is more of a lesson in life than a saying. Hurts certainly deserved to hoist the Vince Lombardi trophy after making history on Sunday. He became the first player to throw for 300 yards, run for 70 yards, complete 70% of his passes, and rush for 3 touchdowns. But those records can be bittersweet when you have to settle for watching Patrick Mahomes lift up the trophy for the second time in 4 years. But Sirianni and the Eagles will reflect upon Sunday's game and they will learn. And that's what makes teams come back and win Super Bowls. But never mind about winning a trophy that you accidentally hand off to a fan in a parade. This is about winning fantasy leagues. Last year, I drafted Hurts in all my leagues not because I thought this would be his year. I drafted him because of his dedication to the game and to his team. Sometimes someone comes along that you know will be great. They have natural abilities that stand out. They put up stats numbers that seem unbelievable. They will become a great player. They will be the GOAT. But sometimes someone comes along that not only is going to be great, but deserves to be great. Someone that is more than his ability. Someone that is more than a stat line. Someone that embraces the grind every day trying to get better to take his team to the big game. And that is the someone who will win you a fantasy football league. Welcome back to our post-Super Bowl analysis featuring tight end Travis Kelce. 2022 was a dismal year for tight ends. We saw the collapse of the supposedly breakouters, potential repeaters, and staying healthy without injuries tight ends. There was a glimmer of hope with a few, but what rose to the top was the plain old boring. And we like boring. All hail the king of tight ends, Zeus. Travis Kelce is anything but boring on the field, but his stats consistently are boring, and that is what we want in fantasy football. Kelce hasn't missed a game due to injury over the last 9 years. In the past 5 years, he averaged yearly 101 receptions, 1,289 yards, and 9.4 TDs, and he has finished first in 6 of the last 7 seasons. Last year the gap grew. He averaged 19.2 PPR points with TJ Hawkinson a far second at 13.3 points. Even in the Super Bowl, his stats were boring. He had 6 receptions, 81 yards, and 1 TD while winning his second Super Bowl and beating out his brother Jason. Almost likely due to Travis having the larger share of his mom's chocolate chip cookies. Kelce may be 33 years old, but with age comes wisdom. His knowledge of football and just knowing the field itself allows him to get open no matter who is guarding him. Kelce is a first-round pick in my fantasy drafts, and you can make a strong case that he should be a top 5 pick. Welcome back to our post-Super Bowl analysis. Last session we chatted about the king of the tight ends, Travis Kelce, but before we move on, let's delve into our last Super Bowl tight end, Dallas Goedert. As I previously mentioned, 2022 saw the decline of the tight end position in fantasy football. In drafting a tight end, you either go with the strategy of get Kelce in round 1, and forfeit a RB or wide receiver, or wait for a later round pick. When you do the latter, you have to look for a couple of options that will provide some stability with not only good points but something that will be fairly consistent. Eagles tight end Dallas Goedert is one of those draft picks. Last season was his most productive. He averaged an efficient 12.8 yards and finished 5th in fantasy points per game, missing 5 late-season games with a shoulder injury. Dallas Goedert is a playmaker tight end, but his target upside may be limited. The Eagles were the 4th run-heaviest team in 2022, and Goedert has to share targets with A.J. Brown and Devontae Smith. And unfortunately, for such an efficient tight end, Goedert has limited PPR value each week while the Eagles continue to be run-heavy and use multiple wide receivers. But with a PPR average of 7.2 points per week, you could do a lot worse for a later round pick. Just pick your battles. Welcome back to our post-Super Bowl analysis featuring RBs Pacheco and McKinnon. The duo offers the Chiefs a perfect 1-2 backfield punch and balance to the offense. Individually, each RB has a skill set that brings a different element to the offense. Jerick McKinnon offers an outlet for Mahomes out of the backfield. It is to no one's surprise that the offense is predicated on the passing game. And utilizing McKinnon out of the backfield punishes opposing defenses who play to slow down Mahomes from beating them through the air. Whether on a check down in the flat, a screen, or even lining up out wide, McKinnon has had success in the passing game. Last year, he had 512 receiving yards, averaging 9.1 yards and 9 TDs. And at the age of 30, he offers the wisdom to take a QB slide on the 2-yard line instead of a walk-off TD to keep the clock ticking. Although that did cost me a prop bet. On the other side of the coin, Isaiah Pacheco offers up bursts of speed and physicality between the tackles. Last year, he had 830 rushing yards, averaging 4.9 yards, and 5 TDs. The game plan will dictate the final workload for each RB. But in the past, not using the running backs enough has been part of the Chiefs' shortcomings. And if this pattern continues, I do not see much fantasy relevance for either of these Tier 5 RBs on a weekly matchup basis. Draft them both but temper expectations. And barring any injuries, I do not see Edwards-Helaire contributing enough to warrant any fantasy relevance. Welcome to our post-Super Bowl analysis featuring Eagles RB Miles Sanders. Even with a diminished Super Bowl role, Sanders still had a career-best season with 1,347 scrimmage yards and 11 TDs. That was good enough for him to finish as RB10 with 216 fantasy points. His TDs numbers may be tough to replicate, especially if Hurts continues as the team's primary goal line rusher. But for Sanders to continue his fantasy relevance, he will need to overcome his low usage as a receiver. This year, he only had 20 receptions for 78 yards and 0 TDs. That may seem justified since the Eagles having quality receivers in A.J. Brown and Devontae Smith. But the ability to handle passing downs is the difference in being a RB2 or a RB10. For comparison's sakes, Sanders had more rushing yards and a slightly better average yards, including 3 more TDs than San Fran's McCaffrey. But McCaffrey had 65 more receptions for 82 more yards and 5 more TDs. And he was competing for receiving yards with Debo and Kittle. In the end, it equates to 74 more fantasy points. Sanders' fantasy value will have to wait until we find out where he will be playing, and if he will be able to become more than just a first down back. And unless Sanders moves, I do not see much fantasy relevance for either Boston Scott or Kenny Gainwell on a weekly basis, with Gainwell, who rushed for 240 yards and 4 TDs and added 23 receptions for 169 yards, being the immediate beneficiary if that was to occur.
Welcome to our post-Super Bowl analysis featuring KC Chiefs receiving core. Last year, Mahomes had a whopping 41 passing TDs and 5,250 yards. So who in his banged-up receiving core is catching all these balls? And who offers any fantasy relevance? Well, besides tight end Kelce and RB McKinnon, who combined for 1,850 yards and 21 TDs, the top of the list is Juju Smith-Schuster. He has been a solid pass catcher for Mahomes this season, racking up 933 yards and 3 scores. Only issue is Juju is a free agent, and if he was to depart, who would be his replacement? Perhaps Kansas City could seek out a player like Jacoby Myers or DJ Chark. If he stays, then let's hope he develops an even larger role or someone else stays healthy enough to step up and offer a combo 1-2 punch with Juju. Although Mahomes has a plethora of good receivers, I am not seeing many who are fantasy relevant. So who can step up enough to warrant drafting in even a mid-round pick? Maybe it could be Marquez Valdes-Scantling, who had 687 yards and 2 TDs. Or perhaps free agent Mecole Hardman. Maybe even rookies Sky Moore or Justin Watson. Perhaps it could even be Kadarius Toney. All he has to do is stay healthy enough for us to see if his amazing skills are reproducible. In the meantime, I will continue to watch reruns of his punt return from the Super Bowl. Welcome to our post-Super Bowl analysis featuring the Eagles receiving core. The Birds' season ended abruptly on Super Bowl Sunday, and the dynamic duo of AJ and Smitty had to come to the realization that their season was over, no matter how much they wanted to cap off their first season together with a Super Bowl win. AJ Brown joined the Eagles last offseason and immediately had an impact in transforming their offense into one of the best this year. He developed an instant chemistry with Hurts and formed a pass-catching tandem with Devontae Smith. AJ had an amazing season with 1,496 receiving yards and 11 TDs, and capped it off with 96 yards and a TD in the Super Bowl. I was fortunate enough to steal him in late round 3 in a 14-person league. Current PPR ranking has him as WR8. AJ will definitely be on my list for this upcoming draft, but I may have to reach for him because he will probably be gone before round 3. Devontae Smith is a fundamentally sound and great route runner after catches, and he is definitely underrated with 95 receptions for 1,196 yards, including 7 TDs. He ranked 9th most for yardage in the NFL. That would probably make him the alpha on 75% of the teams. But as the number 2, I love his fantasy relevance because his floor is fairly stable, but his potential value and ceiling is sky high. His current PPR rank is WR13. Thanks for joining myself, Davis, and my co-host T as we provided pregame and postgame coverage of the Super Bowl 57. And thanks to all who viewed and liked our posts. As promised, we started with a few posts and expanded to some reels. Please continue to follow us as we expand to our podcast and YouTube channel. The official launch will be sometime in late summer, just in time for the start of fantasy football draft. Join us and a revolving door of co-hosts and guests as we chat about fantasy football and try to cook up and mix up some of our fave dishes and cocktails. We will be discussing all aspects of fantasy football to help all our followers with their leagues, from 2QB to Dynasty. Look for segments like Out of the Pocket, a roundtable discussion on QBs, the odds, a segment where we review stats with our fave analyst, Against the Spread, betting pointers and props with our expert Sirag. He will try to help you parlay some of your hard-earned money into some bragging rights. And the Wife Zone, the gals take on football. Just some pointers to help navigate the annoying world of rules and terminology to help foster a loving relationship with your football-obsessed man. Look for more in the upcoming weeks. This is Davis signing off. May all your fantasy football dreams come true.